Council of 8 and to effectively usurp the responsibility bestowed upon us by the state. The responsibility that half of the population of Los Santos placed in my hands. So pressed was she by the prospect of having any amount of oversight whatsoever, treason was the first thing that she suggested. Right in my presence, in my office, in this building, in front of my wife and I. And most importantly, in front of 2 other LSPD captains who did not so much as lift a single finger or make a single peep when she said those words.
What words did she say?
Captains, you remember?
Yeah, I can read it for you, out loud.
Please.
I mean, there's a PD announcement about this.
Yeah, there should be. I'm sure your subordinates want to know why you didn't do shit about it.
Because I didn't believe treason happened, Mayor. That's why.
Yeah,
Captain
of course
Ruiz
not.
proposed a hypothetical question that if the city council can just vote and say they're above the PD, can the captain just vote and say they're above the city council? That was the question that was proposed.
She said, and I quote, "What if we just vote to take power from the council?" In response to my inquiry about their accountability and their responsibility to this island.
That sounds like she's posing a hypothetical to...
Well, first
She
of all,
was
Cantor,
trying
it's
to
called
prove a point.
First of all, it was so far off base that even if that's what she was trying to do, her lack of understanding about how basic government functions in our island is disgusting. She suggesting for a moment that is the same thing as the Council of 8 is ridiculous because all of us have checks and balances. All of you can vote to impeach me. All of you, some of you are not elected officials. You can be fired and replaced. Okay? What sort of anything stands for them in that same capacity? And once again, it's hyperbole, not hypotheticals.
So she said this out loud?
Oh, yeah.
I was there. She definitely said that. She also said the PD was their own branch of government. So that, like, you know what I mean? So...
I mean, thank God we're all protected by the third part of the Bill of Human Privilege, freedom of speech, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't even get me started on Unicode. Yeah, I'm glad that your
Not
captains.
when it conflicts with the penal code.
I'm glad that your
go
captains
for it.
are.
We got you here.
I'm glad that your captains are here, Nakota, because every single time I've tried to breach any sort of actual subject for you from the PD, you've said, "Oh, well, I don't know if I could speak on that. I don't know if I could speak on the behalf of the captains." What's your fucking job at that point? What are you here to accomplish other than to push the agenda that these motherfuckers are trying to have you push?
You mean the PD agenda?
The captain agenda. If this was the PD agenda, you would have mentioned a single time the plight that you and your fellow officers are currently experiencing.
What is our plight, Mayor? Yeah, what is our plight, Mr. Mayor, that you know so much about?
The captain's agenda when in reality it's the PD agenda? Go ahead, Nakota. Tell them exactly what's going on.
Well, I just want to hear what the biggest issues facing the PD are from you, Mr. Mayor.
Hold on. Can we pause for a second? Can I just want to one thing at a time because we've been through so many topics. My head's spinning.
Okay, let me finish my speech. I've only got a couple paragraphs left, and actually, it's pretty appropriate to what just happened. The combative and disrespectful tittering from Captain Turner and Captain Ruth, as well as the willful and weaponized ignorance demonstrated by Captain Leonardo Slacks last night was both disheartening and eye-opening. Instead of attempting to justify in any palpable means why it has taken them so long to put out more than 2 police officers every night on the street, or why it has taken 2 months to convince themselves that they are able to trust men and women who put their lives on the line and to sacrifice their time and effort to train this next generation of police officers enough to give them the ability to push a warrant without captain approval, they were defensive. They asked me, well, what would you do? And when I attempted to explain as much, they were convinced that their way, which has been demonstrably proven to be wrong, has failed. And so any ideas I or others had to the contrary must surely also be wrong. They were more concerned with attempting to poke holes in any flag-bearing olive branch I had to extend in some sad bid to justify their presently sloth-like police department. They were more concerned with having to answer to me or to anybody. They are not interested in cooperating with the mayor's office or the council unless it benefits them wholly and utterly. The LSPD claims to care about the people of Los Santos, about us, about whoever. Why is it then when faced with the smallest bit of scrutiny from its mayor, an official whom represents the majority of the people of Los Santos in their best interests, they cannot fathom that they might have been in the wrong in their methods or that they could use a little bit of help. End.
Okay. So I want to address a couple things because I think historically I've tried to serve as a mediator in this jurisdiction, and I will try to do so today. First off, I think there's a general confusion, especially based on what the mayor here has relayed from what Ruth said. The mayor, yes, is the elected will of the people. And as such, he represents the will of the state. However, much like myself and Miss Hawthorne and many others in this room, namely pretty much everyone on the council, that authority or will of the people is not limitless. The idea that the legislation discussed focuses on is more so the authority of the mayor to investigate what is going on in the jurisdiction that he is elected to oversee and to relay said information to the appropriate parties and do as he sees fit based on authorization therefrom. This is not a
hostile takeover. Crane is wording this
authoritarian regime where he is going to forcibly take over the PD,
Certainly
fire
not.
people, and
Certainly
do a
not.
bunch of crazy shit.
Firing people is the furthest thing on my mind right now. Even you fucks.
And I can, Mr. Mayor,
Okay,
please
can
just
we
let me get
not
Mayor,
do
Mayor,
that?
with all
What
due
is
respect, I
this?
mean, I'm
Max.
not going to sit here and take disrespect. I'll
Okay,
walk out
just
of here.
everybody cool it down. Okay. So, as I discussed with you gentlemen out in the hallway, this is not something that is of his own creation, spawned from nothingness. This council that I helped to design is meant to establish the will of the people. Oftentimes, I found myself, 5-6 years ago, overwhelmed trying to cater to everyone's needs from every walk of life. And part of the reason for this council existing is that I felt it were more appropriate for different walks of life to be represented through different conduits, such as the healthcare field, the law enforcement field, the legal field, and then the citizenry, whether that be the deputy mayor, the mayor, whatever. Now, the treasurer and I, and in some ways the head of the Bar Association, are meant to be sort of the anchor by which this council operates. Now, when I look at things, you need to trust me, Slacks, Turner, everyone, that I'm doing so in the best interest of this state. I helped Max conceive of many of the ideas in this document. This is not something that's coming out of left field. We, as a council, have been approached by many people from PD, both on our own, as groups.
This means that it's going to go through.
Randomly. Hell, I've been sitting in the lobby of MRPD and I've had people say shit to me about how PD's going. Now, this doesn't mean that I believe them 1000%, nor do I think Max does. Part of the conversation we had is that the first step of any of this, and potentially even the penultimate step, will solely be to assemble an investigative panel, which, spoiler alert, my picks were Willie Glory, a former police lieutenant, now judge, and Lance Malton, a former police high command member and now head of the Bar Association, who is beyond fucking, reproach. And to have them, both experienced members of PD, known commodities, okay, to many of your more experienced officers, to go in there and see what's going on. Because I don't trust random people bitching to me.
Same.
And Max doesn't either. So look, I'm going to not apologize for another grown man and his proclivities. you may notice that I actually have shoes on, okay? I'm not wearing skinny jeans with my fucking, pinky toes out in a city council meeting, but I'm not the mayor, am I? I'm the chief justice. And I'm not going to apologize for the mayor or explain what he does. What I will tell you is that I will vouch for his integrity in this issue. You have my word that he is only trying to do what's best for the city. Now,
Like
do
Michael
I
said.
agree with his exact methodology? No. I do not think that fire and brimstone preaching from the pulpit is a good way to accomplish and engender people to your cause. But to be fair, from the comments that he has relayed, it doesn't seem like everyone on your side necessarily handled themselves perfectly either. Hypotheticals or not, that's kind of a dumb fucking statement to make, because perfectly honestly, we all answer to the state. We all answer to a government higher than us. And to suggest somehow that we're just in here willy-nilly making shit up as we go is fucking ridiculous. And it betrays all the effort and investment that I've put into, fucking creating this whole fucking council, to suggest that we're just up here giving ourselves whatever power we deem necessary. You Slacks and you Turn know as well as anyone that if one day the federal government or the state above us wakes up and decides Alan Crane's a piece of shit and he's gone, I'm gone. Okay?
Right.
So there's no fucking weird discussion about who's the ultimate power, who's taking power from who. The end result is we're all trying to do our fucking jobs. Sorry, I'm fire and brimstone.
No,
Take it down a bit.
I love hearing you speak. Please continue.
So all I'm trying to say is, I'm glad Max got his shit out of his system. I hope in the future he can, visit a men's warehouse and get some slip-ons at least.
We'll see.
It's on our to-do list.
I believe that it is perfectly reasonable, and I'll tell you this, especially given the fact that Etta over here, by the way, the treasurer, who I trust completely, is in my ear every other day advocating for you two to give you more money and more budgetary expenditures and more cars and more toys and more things that you need to do your jobs better. And those things go hand in hand with what Max wants, which I'm guessing is not to be bitched at by every cop that sees him walking MRPD about the squabbles that are going on internally with how things are functioning.
Amen.
So I think we can all work together here, because guess what? If the investigative body decides that, hey, maybe this tiny thing could be improved, or maybe this could be looked at, or maybe this could be worked on, maybe those could be incentives that could allow us to create budgetary incentives and optimization incentives for the PD that, could grant you the fucking car trucks and the turbos for your cars and the upgrades and, FTO incentives and all these things. But right now, if we're going to sit here and have a pissing match, then nobody gets anything. And I think that's fucking dumb.
That's exactly my thought process, right?
Okay.
I want to work with people, but respect goes a long way.
So let me just open up the legislation. Let's not talk about what we've heard. Let's not talk about how some person interpreted this.
Can we get a copy of the current?
Yeah,
It's good. I have a feeling we're going to be updating it right now. So
I'm just gonna lay out what I think is the core of this, okay? Because a lot of this, I'm gonna be honest with you, and you know this. Well, some people know this about me. I don't like a lot of the fluff in a lot of the legislation. I think a lot of it is just pontificating and grandstanding. To be honest, the core of this to me is the examples of the powers the mayor's office reserves. And by the way, it also bookends on both sides of this that the state has the ultimate authority here. State supremacy. Even says state supremacy. This document assures and reiterates as well state supremacy on matters of law to form departments within the state, acting as the ultimate arbiter of decision making. So, yes, the mayor's office is an agent of the state, just like the PD is, but you guys have a mutual, boss. He's not over you in such a way that he's like your direct boss. He's going to tell you exactly what to do. It's more so he's an emissary of the state investigating for the state and then acting as appropriately when authorized. So, for example, this says examples of powers: initiation of commissioner selection and definition of the role, The mayor or deputy mayor will collect names submitted by the LSPD in order to submit them to the state. He's literally asking to be a messenger. That's not a far-reaching ask, by the way. Second point, the formation of other law enforcement departments. As the need arises, coverage is important. Key point, as the need arises. It may not need right now. The investigation may result that the need may be emergent in the future, or there should be a plan created for a rollout that is set in stone or a timeline. It doesn't mean we're just going to pop up a fucking sheriff's office tomorrow. Third, directly refer any emergent personnel issues to the head of the Bar Association for Civilian Oversight Board. This is something I worked with Max on, because I came to him and I said, hey, we got this whole idea about investigating what's going on with PD and sending in this, investigative body to sort of get us the answers. But we already know how we want to handle personnel issues, and that's the Civilian Oversight Board. So we just worked that in. So they're in combo now. So the reason why we haven't pushed Civilian Oversight Board into legislation yet is because it should go as in tandem. The Civilian Oversight Board should be created so that as this investigative panel discovers issues that may be occurring, they can be referred directly to Malton, because guess what? Malton's on the panel. And then he can go ahead and assemble the Civilian Oversight Board, which the elections will run in the next week or so, assuming this legislation in some form gets passed. And it says it should be the mayor's office's goal to ensure that the law enforcement departments are given the tools to succeed. It says that every law enforcement officer is afforded the opportunity to succeed so long as they're passionate about their job and committed to active law enforcement. So there's been some contention about that one. I'm going to not speak for Max, but instead I'll pose a question as a way to not make this confrontational.
Sure.
Max, the cynical worry when reading this sentence could mean that you are stating that you will completely throw out any disciplinary action, wrongdoing, violation of SOPs, and simply say, well, if you got a good attitude and you're passionate about being a cop, then you should be a cop still. Is that accurate, Max?
No. And let me be clear. It was never going to be my intention to go in and be like, hey, these discipline points, don't know about that. Don't know about this indefinite suspension. He's hired again, blah, blah, blah. I literally won't be doing that. It's more about establishing the chain of command so that you guys are not judge, jury, and executioner.
And how would you fix that with an active chain of command? What would you do in a way to where you'd allow something like that to flourish?
By having
what I would do is I would make sure you had a boss.
Yeah.
First and foremost, a commissioner, a chief of police, anyone that could look at your handed out discipline points and think, hey, maybe these guys shouldn't be the ones to review whether or not their decision to hand out discipline points was correct or not. Accountability.
This is what I've been saying all fucking
points
day.
and signing off on it, and you don't agree with it. What happens then?
Should not be doing that.
Yeah, he just doesn't do it.
So
Leonardo.
one thing I've talked to Max about, sorry, Max, in terms of the DOJ, we had a long conversation about DOJ training and our structure. And one of the things that I imparted to him was that you don't see me taking a lot of basic cases anymore, right? I'm not sitting here doing every single appeal, every single trial. The reason for that being is I have judges that I delegate to do these cases. Then when their judgment is questioned, mine is in reserve. So the same would function with a chief, for example. The chief's job, in my eyes, at least the way I understand police departments, I could be wrong,
Oh, the thing
is
I
not
don't
to
think
go
she
out
can.
with the rank and file every day and be like, hey, Jimmy, you shot that guy twice in the back, and then he
The
dropped the
commissioner is a
knife and you
well-respected
shot him a
cop
third time,
and
Jimmy.
senior
That's
officer
4
plus
DAT
at
points, because
minimum.
that was a use of force excessive. No, the chief's job should be at a macro level, taking care of the department. And then when decisions are made by the rank and file all the way up to him, your chain of command, the chief should be the ultimate say-so when someone needs an answer. So, for example, this Gregory Johnson guy has been yelling at anyone who will listen about how he was wronged. He made a fucking rap song. He's come to City Hall. He's screamed at Max, I'm sure. He's yelled at me. He's been all over everywhere. But right now, his recourse or his ultimate answer comes from the same people that made the decision in the first place. So effectively, as someone who's in his position, he's left with, okay, I can just try to keep convincing the people that already decided I should be
Wait.
fired, or
Malton was the one that
I just
that
kind of give up.
suggested that Jenny should be.
And in my opinion, it's the same thing
Malton
with
is a-
justice system.
Malton,
Why
was
the
about to
fuck
ask you
Malton
the
is
same
would there
thing,
be an
yeah.
is a little
appeal
shit.
from one judge to another that are all the same rank that all handle basic cases? The reason I've said we don't do that is because then you're just supplanting one person's opinion for another that are of equal merit. Or you're
Exactly.
asking the judge to go back on their own decision. That's why we have a chief justice, so that someone can go, you know what, I think I was treated unfairly. And they get an opportunity to bring in front of somebody else. And if that doesn't work out, well, then they got their answer.
I'm just confused. What do people have an issue with when a boss or somebody else comes in and removes somebody for lying or integrity, falsifying evidence?
No one slacks. No one is well, let me rephrase this.
Yeah, exactly. So
The
he already
issue
knows
is not
that
the
this
substantive action that has occurred.
he's playing it like he's confused
The
as to
issue
what
is
is
that
going on, but he knows
procedurally,
exactly what is going on and what is being
the
pushed.
substantive
And he's
action
probably
is
doing
being
it to get
reviewed
a
by the same
grasp
people
of
that made the action in the
people's
first place.
feelings.
It would be
and
like if I did a
without
court case
telling them that
and
he
someone's
knows.
only chance to appeal was to say, "Hey, Crane, you ruled on my court case. I'm appealing. I think you got it wrong. What do you think?" Do you see how awkward and strange that is?
I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. You're saying the people that are firing these folks shouldn't be the folks also, reviewing this kind of punishment, because how are you supposed to get a true assessment of what's going on?
Well,
if
how
you're
are you
the-
supposed to second guess yourself?
Right,
Is the
right.
whole point.
You're
There
the
should be
person that
someone
hires and fires
disconnected,
somebody.
whether a
Which
chief,
is why we
a
propose a chief,
commissioner. Correct.
right?
We're on the same page there, which is why I'm saying I don't think anything here is novel or different. I just think y'all are having communication problems. Which welcome
These
to fucking Los
scoots.
Santos,
Thank you so much
everybody.
for bringing this up.
I mean,
Malcolm.
My attempt to communicate with them, Crane, last night was a treason joke and defensive tittering. That's what I had to deal with last night.
okay,
Mayor, did you
hold-
look yourself in the mirror though while talking to us? Because we came in there and you shouted not once, not twice, but 3 times, and you kept raising your voice every single time. I mean, I try to talk to you. I try to be very calm. I get your frustration and some of the problems we agreed on. We agreed on retention. We agreed about burnouts. We agreed about coverage. We agreed about units. We
didn't agree about shit, Leonardo.
Yes, we did. But
We
you're not
did.
willing to. You're not willing to listen to us because
That-
you were so angry about the problem, and I get that.
No,
You're passionate about what you're doing.
no.
No.
I'm
no.
telling you.
He sounds like
I
Trump.
explained to you the problems that I had
No.
witnessed in
No.
speaking to all these cops. You explained why you thought it was a problem and why it was happening. And
You're wrong.
You guys, when I suggested for a moment that I be there to potentially have professionals advise you guys on what you could be doing better, you got defensive. Okay, we didn't agree on shit last night.
Okay, can we?
Well, no, you see,
okay,
that
We
point-
asked
Stop.
questions. What the
Can we
problems
pause?
were.
Can we pause? Can we pause? Look, I hate to, I hate to, be a broken record here, but I literally, the final thing I just said was, this is a communication issue. And now you two are sitting here across the table telling each other how the conversation occurred and saying you're wrong. And the other person saying, no, you're wrong. Hence communication issue. So
One of our jobs, okay, there's a difference between my job and their job, obviously, is that I was elected by people because I talked and listened to them. These fucks were picked by the state.
Please stop.
Correct.
One of
name-calling.
us is better
Max,
at listening and
how
talking
the hell
to
were
people.
we meant to vote for this when you were meant to oversee them, when you were unwilling to speak to them or even show them the basic decency of talking about them?
They don't
as if they
deserve
have
decency, Cantor. They threatened treason in City
your
Hall
problem.
last night.
Okay,
That's your
pause.
problem.
For the love of God.
Second point, they didn't threaten treason. Okay, what occurred was a shitty quip. Okay, I've dealt with treason, Max. I've dealt with people actually trying to overthrow the fucking state several times now, actually.
So, what part of an LSPD captain making this quip in quotes in response to being subjected to even a semblance of responsibility and accountability is not treason? They have the guns, they have the cars, they have the weapons, they have everything.
It's immaturity and idiocy. And
It's
I think
unprofessional.
it's unprofessional. It was
That's
immature. And it was
rich.
stupid.
That's
Okay.
rich.
No one, Miss Treasure, no one is claiming that somehow there is an isolated sense of someone being professional and someone not being professional because one person is being called it. I'm simply trying to just get through this muck and mire and get to something productive, because right now we're still on the fucking he said she said.
Okay. All right. Captain Turner, Captain Slacks, I apologize. Clearly, I did not understand that Brooke Ruth, world-renowned comedian, was just trying to make a joke about overthrowing the government. I look forward in this capacity to working with you guys. I'm always here. You can call me whenever you want.
Mayor, and I'll have Captain Root come down here and apologize for her behavior as well. It was unprofessional. I do agree with that.
Okay. Deal.
Thank you.
Ask a productive question here. I spitballed a lot of thoughts in there. I feel my most important ones were in bold. I have yet to get a clear-cut answer that I'm hoping the captains can give me, or Crane, or the mayor, because we asked this last week.
How is Crane not
I know what this bill is
listening?
proposing. You know, I could see what it's going to potentially do, but if it's shot down, what is our system currently? Does the PD just answer to the state? Are they meant to work hand in hand with the council via political consequences, shall we say? What is the current status quo when it comes to the government chain of command and the police department?
We answer to the same master at the end of the day in the
Okay.
state government
Mhm.
or federal government, depending on how you interpret the way our jurisdiction works.
Okay.
What is key to understand here is that it is very clear, based on the setup of the city council of 8, that the funds that pay everyone's salaries in this room, looks around, yep, every single person in this room, from the head of the clerks to the captains over there, to every member on the council, and to Cletus Cornwood, who is a bar certified attorney drawing a paycheck from the government. All of our money comes from taxes we are paid directly from the state account. The city council is the arbiter of state funds. Hello, Madam Treasurer. Our job is to decide how to allocate those funds. Now, we have some guidance from above, from the state government, as has been seen previously, where there have been requests for things like EMS Life Flight and Air One and different things for PD, K9 units and motor units and all these things. And what I'm telling you right now is that everyone needs to work together, because guess what? If you guys need things and you need assistance from the council, which, by the way, you do, then it is in everyone's best interest to work together. And I assure you that this legislation is not without the ability to be repealed immediately. In fact, Max and I have already had conversations that this legislation is solely due to the fact that we are an emergent state. This legislation may not even exist in future mayoral terms. This legislation is right now, you guys are growing, we're growing, and everyone's trying to figure shit out. So to Malton's point, this is a collaborative effort in which the PD will allow, by way of good faith, you know, the mayor's office and the council of 8 to do their jobs. Now, we're not going to sit here and pretend that we couldn't just pass this legislation, bitch and moan to the state, and say, let us do what we want, PDR, you know, being obstructionists and blah, blah, blah. We could do that, but that's stupid. It serves no one. So we are trying to have productive conversations that we can agree on so this can move forward positively and productively. Does that answer that, Lance?
Yes.
Okay.
I think going back to my point, I'm all for oversight within the police department. I'm all for checks and balances that adhere to
Am I reading
good police
31?
department that has
No,
the
I'm
best interests of
32.
the city, right? Not the best interests of people in charge. I totally understand that. I'm all for it. The problem I have with it, go ahead.
I think.
Go ahead.
The problem I have with it is just making sure the people in position have good faith and making sure the PD does prosper and grow. And that's just my fear. That's
my
all.
profile
Because
is
absolute
outdated.
power can corrupt.
I assure you that if the mayor does anything untoward or acts out of
I'm getting
line,
impeached.
he will be fucking impeached. It's very
Yeah.
simple.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've
And
noticed.
I told you that last
I don't know
night.
if you've noticed, Slacks, but do some basic math here, right?
You want to
Miss
know the secret
Treasurer,
to you looking
Miss
young?
Healthcare Liaison, Mr. Head of the Bar, again, beyond reproach,
Don't go
and
outside.
Mr. PD Liaison and Mr. Chief Justice. How many people is that, Slacks?
5.
That's 5.
That's majority.
Okay, so just so we're clear, there are checks and balances here. The mayor cannot just fly off at the handle and do whatever the fuck he pleases. Also, there's an ultimate check, by the way, because the very
Lazarus,
legislation
thank
that
you so
he
much for
wrote
15 months.
refers to state supremacy, and we just got done discussing the fact that he has a boss just like any of us, even though he
So,
is the mayor.
any reference to the state is for our higher ups,
Well,
and
it's
not
the state in
mayor's
general.
office.
We are an agent of the state. The mayor is an agent of the state, but he has a boss just like everyone.
An agent of the state, and
Yeah,
not
okay.
the state.
But it's the same thing. If you say I work for the police department, I am the police, you could be a rank and file officer or a captain or the chief. You're still the police.
Now, Chief Justice, can we get a copy of what you guys are talking about? Because I still have not seen it.
You have seen it.
No, I've seen the
We'd like to see
rough
the current
draft.
version.
Yeah, the current version. You
Okay,
said-
Yeah,
hold on.
it's-
I'll send you guys. I'll send you guys a. I'll send you guys a picture. Hang on.
I appreciate
you.
that.
I can just. Well, why don't we just do this? Why don't I just create a report for them and they can just see it?
That would be
put
a lot
into
easier.
a high command
That's
report.
great. Yeah.
The next question I had in regards to this that I've broached to various parties, shall we say? This is the pill question, basically. It as I understand it, I see the argument here. You know, we used to work under the Senate system that has
It's under high
morphed-
command report.
that has morphed to like a quasi
Thank you, Justice.
state and Council of 8 system.
Wait,
I
there's
would
a
like to hear
Pepsi
everyone's thoughts as to why this should rest with the mayor's office potentially, as opposed to the council as a whole. Does this process get slowed down that much by the council defining what the commissioner role is, the council discussing this, or the council referring to the head of bar for personnel issues?
In my personal opinion, I don't think there's any benefit because the way I read this and the way I understand it, and again, you know, well, Lance, you were there for part of that meeting as well.
Yes.
The way I read and understand this legislation is that for the most part, and forgive me, Mr. Mayor, this is not meant to be diminutive, just accurate.
Yep.
Most of this is the mayor being I guess I would call it like a clerk for the state. He's essentially gathering information, delivering information, gathering nominations, delivering nominations, and all of this is delivered to someone above him for decision making in conjunction with himself. It is not something where he is just autonomous, and therefore I don't really know what value would be added by the council, including myself, by the way, being a part of that information gathering process. I think the council should be a part of forming what this legislation should do and how it should function, but the actual act of carrying out the information gathering and the dissemination and all that, I don't see why there needs to be 8 people in a meeting when there could be 3. I don't, you know.
But it's pretty clear that. Well, actually, hold on. No, never mind. Never mind. Please continue. You have any other questions, Bond?
This is a bit of wordplay. I mean, like I said, you could call the role whatever the fuck you want, and it could have whatever powers we want. But you know, when people traditionally think of commissioner, they think as you know, top of the PD hierarchy and in charge of all departments. But there is only one currently. At the end of the day, is this essentially just appointing like or assisting the state, if we're going to use Crane's terminology, in appointing a chief of police?
Yeah.
Bro, I swear to God.
Yes.
So my color correction works when I'm out, but now it's
You know how we brought in Miss Wright Malton, or anyone else who remembers
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
how myself and the government brought in Miss Wright to help formulate the city council?
Right.
Yeah, that was done because the state needed a conduit, okay, to assist me, kind of like a rubber ducky theory, right? You know, bounce ideas off people, hear yourself talk. It's not necessarily
Kiva?
because Max is like, you know, the end all be all of PD bureaucracy. It's because he's a person who has the authority
I don't think Malton has
to
a stutter.
handle the communication and assembly of information. And he's a third party distinct from the PD, which allows him to attempt to be somewhat objective. And if his objectivity comes into question, that's why he has to report it to superiors. That's why the decision is not coming from him directly.
Oh,
I'm struggling to make this any more clear. I feel like the whole purpose here is you get a third party individual who comes in like a fixer and says, hey, you're too lost in the sauce of your own department to really see things for how they may truly be. And although it is tough sometimes, you need someone else to come in and tell you, hey, you know, this is going on or that's going on. And, you know, I do this all the time in the DOJ. There's a reason why we have open discussion, is because sometimes you need to be challenged and your ideas need to be, you know, fully articulated. You need to be forced to put your ideas to paper and prove your theories, because sometimes your assumptions don't pan out. And all this is just an exploratory function to see if things are panning out the way they should be. And guess what? I think one thing everyone here is missing, including the captains, is that, and Max, correct me if I'm wrong, it is a very real possibility that he does all this exploratory investigation, he goes through, and he finds out that the people who are complaining to him are being hyperbolic, they
Right.
were misrepresenting information, and things are actually going well. That's a distinct possibility.
I plan on doing an investigation, right? And I plan on having experts, as the Chief Justice said, go in and do the brunt of that work. So one way or the other, we're going to find out the truth. And yeah, he's right. It very well could end up that way. I mean,
And by the
all
way,
the stars could have aligned.
Yeah, and that's a total possibility. I just thought about also when it comes to like the civilian oversight board. I thought that was gonna be the way of the public applying the pressure as far as
Well,
the PD.
we discussed this, Lex. The Civilian Oversight Board is meant to handle distinct disputes and articulated incidents on an individual basis. So Malton's purview is to assemble a group of civilians, again, an objective third party, who can look at a dispute between civilian A and cop B, or
What
cop
is
A
with
and
you
cop B, or
phantoms?
vice versa, or whatever. Bring them in, investigate by, you know, interviewing them, getting evidence, getting reports, and then coming to a decision. The Civilian Oversight Board is not meant to evaluate a bureaucracy.
If I could sum it up, and maybe I'm dumbing it down a little bit too much, but would it be fair to say that the Civilian Oversight Board is intended to be reactive, while this
Correct.
legislation or this this commissioner or whatever is intended to be proactive?
Very, very well put.
I see.
Okay, so I guess I'll address the elephant in the room. The fact that the wording on this has changed pretty drastically.
In real time.
What do you mean?
And,
What? Pardon?
It's a state.
Hello?
The third bullet point. I have a copy here. When I was reading it, where it said initiation of the audit of certain law enforcement officers after receiving several reports about their conduct in order to determine whether or not corruption, unfair internal gatekeeping.
Yeah, that was
or
before
misconduct
Max
in
and I had a
general
conversation
has
about the role of
transpired.
the Civilian Oversight Board.
That was 3 days ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you guys really that out of touch with your jobs that you can't fucking check the reports at least once a
Max.
day?
This
Max.
is one copy that I
am
still
not a verbal
have,
punching
Max.
bag,
Yeah,
so you
I
need
did
to
not
lower
agree.
your
Okay, look,
tone.
my
Somehow.
bad. Look, I thought it was our responsibility to keep abreast of everything.
I have
Obviously,
read it all, but I
oh,
have not copied it all down. I'm sorry, I didn't think
Oh,
to do
look,
that.
obviously this is a very important subject because I was told that right away this is something we had to speak about. Okay, and if this is something you guys are truly passionate about and being involved in, then you would have had the facts 100%. You would have checked the report again, anything. Okay,
I agree with him though.
why not? Why not?
Max.
Nice try.
Make 'em wear shoes.
None of this is productive.
So initial concerns and whatnot are pertaining to those initial wording. Because that just shows me what the actual intentions are. And then,
Well, hold on. Before you continue, what are the actual intentions, Etta?
You wanted control. You wanted to
control of what? Control of what?
The PD.
Okay, so this third bullet point in particular speaks about what, Etta, off the top of your head?
It gave the power to the mayor's office.
No,
To?
No. It's not just Etta, though.
Do?
I pointed it out.
You checking your notes right now?
He's such a little shit.
I'm just stating the wording.
That was the rough draft, the initial wording. Initially, I thought it was a good idea for the mayor's office to be the only ones that actually handled auditing of police officers that were conducting themselves in a way that was not conducive to an actual healthy environment for police officers to be able to do their job.
My whole point is, why is this even necessary? Why didn't we just bring in the captains like we have right now?
Yeah,
and
why have
sat
we not
down
spoken
with them
with
and
them?
had this conversation before we even had to write up this legislation
Turner-
to get this whole, hornet's nest stirred up?
Turner, I know you've had a leave of absence recently. How long were you on LOA?
Roughly 14 days.
14 days. Okay. I've tried to speak with Slacks, and fortunately I did. I met Ruth for the first time last night. It felt like the stars aligned when I was able to get all three of them in a room. Regardless, I did.
Accuse them of treason.
Excuse me.
Said that meeting.
Oh, are you? What is this
that not what happened?
They did. She suggested it. It came from her mouth.
Hyperbole, right? Remember?
Yeah, you said it.
Yeah, I said it because I was trying, just like I was when I tried. Shut the. I was extending an olive branch to them last night when I invited them to speak with me in my office. Okay. All right. And in being met with any semblance of, hey, maybe you need some help. Hey, maybe this isn't working. Captain Roos's first instinct was to make a joke about overthrowing the government. Okay? So don't turn this on me. I was trying to conduct myself.
I don't care about that joke.
That was not
we
a
have
first
them
instinct.
here,
Come
I'd
on,
be happy
Mayor.
to hear their opinion.
That is unfair to say that happened in that conversation. We want to work with you. We do. I want to work with you. I believe in you, right? But at the same time, it doesn't feel good when you're shouting back at us when we're trying to talk to you.
Doesn't it go both ways?
It doesn't feel good when you are just... Look, it doesn't matter, okay? It was last night.
No. This is productive.
Yeah.
We're using feeling words.
Okay, all right. What isn't productive is last night...
No, not objective. Feeling words.
I don't want to use feeling words.
Well, I
right
don't
now.
use-
Let's start with
It
it makes me feel this way when you do this.
I don't
Okay,
want to turn this
eh,
meeting to feelings, okay? Because we're for facts, right? So let's just stick to that.
Okay, so in honoring the Chief Justice, it makes me feel when the three of you waltz into my office, ill-equipped with misinformation and what have you, with a preconceived notion of what it is I plan on doing, that you are so scared and defensive that you feel that you need to circle the wagons and try to attempt to poke holes in any suggestion that I had to make to you. That makes me feel like shit. And that makes me feel like you guys aren't doing it because you have the best interest of Los Santos in mind. It makes me feel like you guys have your interest in
asking to
mind.
turn back in.
The document
How
that
does
you
that
sent
make
me...
you feel, Slacks and
Since,
Turner?
well,
The-
real quick,
the same-
since we're
the
talking about
same way.
feelings, I felt we had to come to your office to get anything out of you. We got no response from you. We got nothing, no corpse brought up to us. We
went to the
wanted
horse-
to.
We
talk
want to
to
hear
you.
from the horse's mouth and figure out
So-
exactly what's going on because we're hearing a lot of things from a lot of different officers and a lot of different people. So we said,
Who?
Let's go talk to the mayor.
Who talked to you? Are they in
Many
this
people
room
talk
right
to
now?
us.
Who talked
who?
to you?
Well,
The
who talk-
majority of the officers.
Yeah,
that
we'd like
came
to know who
you,
the
Matt,
officers
whoever
are.
you
Who,
spoke to.
who were this majority that came to you?
Look, see, that's the thing right now. Those officers could lose their job if I
No,
were to
they're
say
not.
something.
No, they cannot.
Yeah, oh, give me a
we have-
fucking
we-
break.
we-
Give me a break.
We have
never
never given
Nobody
somebody
has been
repercussions
fired.
for talking.
When I
Nobody.
met with Flop and Cornwood 2 days ago, you called both of them twice to find out
Yeah,
what they were doing and
yeah.
where they were. I
Because-
invited you to that meeting and you said no.
What is
Why are you stalking them like that? What are you afraid of?
Where the fuck is Ruth?
No.
absolutely
Stupid
not.
ass Fuck her. Where is she?
No, I
It's my
literally
fucking
told. I
date.
literally
Somebody
told you
else.
to
He
leave.
wasn't hugged enough.
Leave, Rami. I
That man
told
needs
you
a
to
hug.
leave. I'm sorry about that.
I contacted my officers because they're in the middle of nowhere. 10-7, I answered the radio because I was worried they're being kidnapped. That was
So
my fear.
you called them personally then on
Yes,
your phone.
because you're not answering the radio. I asked them multiple times for 311 over the radio, no response at all. So I
Is there a
called their
problem
personal
with
cell.
us keeping checks on
No,
officers?
not. I
We're not
just didn't.
reprimanding people.
I didn't understand the context. Okay.
Right, and we didn't understand the context of what you're going through, right? I think the game of telephone is what Crane talked about here very well.
Misinformation,
You have a perspective
assumptions.
on the police department, and we have a perspective on what's going on as far as outside of our police department. I think
Okay,
it's
we're going
more
in
about-
circles. Can we just do this? Can we agree that in the future, if you guys hear something about each other, you wait to talk to each other before drawing conclusions? Is that fair?
We want an open line of communication.
Max, is that fair?
I'm more than willing to do that. I would
Great,
love
cool.
to do that.
I think that's more productive than listening to a bunch of gossip people who have their own agendas and biases.
And I
So
wanna-
let's
I wanna-
talk to each other in the future. And by the way, Slack, this is not me saying that I don't honestly think there's also an objective need for information gathering. But let me just put it this way. If you think Willie Glory is a gossip hound, well, I don't know what to say to you.
I'm not worried about that. For me, I'm not even worried. If the mayor goes up to an officer and says, hey, how is the PD doing? I have no problem with them telling the mayor exactly what they're going through and what they think. I have no issue whatsoever, right?
I
think for
feel
me,
like
if there's a problem,
people also need
or
to
a-
stop
and we wanna have
taking
an
what's
official
in
resolution for it,
this
I just
at
feel like
face
officers
value
follow the
if
chain
it's
of
still
command,
being
we should go
worked
through
on.
Nakota or the captains.
Do you
try to
do you
figure
know
out-
do you know the name of the cop who showed me into MRPD last night?
Yeah, Buck. I hired him myself.
Well, is he okay?
Buck Fleming. Of course he's all right.
He's
Why
all
wouldn't he be
right.
all
I
right?
mean, why would he be okay? I'm confused.
Well, I mean, is he going to receive any reprimand or punishment for allowing us into the building?
Why would he receive any punishment for that?
I am
Mr.
asking
Mayor,
you
may I-
if that is what is going to happen. I'm not accusing you
Absolutely
of
not.
it having.
I talked to him, and he told me the same conversation he told me. And I said, that's fine.
Mr. Mayor,
Most-
can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So during the initial, I guess you could say speech when you're presenting this case,
Mm-hmm.
you were explaining how officers are afraid to speak due to repercussion. What situation arose that that was your presumption of what happens to officers?
I've spoken to several officers now, and every time I ask them about how it's going or how they feel about their superiors or how everything is operating within the police department, every single one of them hesitated. Like, because they were afraid of what was going to happen to them if they were to even begin speaking out of line. Nakota himself in our council meetings is afraid to speak to the 100% of his job title because he is afraid that it's going to contradict what you guys think.
I will interject. I want to make this point very clear because I hope this isn't lost on Nakota or anyone else in this room. So for everyone's benefit, the logic behind the creation of some of these positions, such as healthcare, law enforcement, head of the bar, was that if I wanted my own opinion, I already have it. I am the status quo of the DOJ. Slacks and Turner, you are the status quo of the PD. You set policy, you direct, the vision, and you create the culture. The point of having a PD liaison and a head of the bar association separate from the high command or de facto chief
He's so
leadership
old.
of the department is so that we can get a different opinion from the status quo. So the idea is that if the lawyers don't like something policy-wise going on with the DOJ, they don't have to be afraid of trying to go all the way up and challenge the status quo, aka me. They can go through Malton, and Malton can be their voice. Same thing with Nakota. The idea is that he can go to the rank and file, they can bring concerns to him, and they can emerge topics, such as have being said to the mayor. Unfortunately, what the mayor is reflecting is that his impression, and again, his feeling, his impression, subjective, is that his impression is that Nakota is simply acting as a mouthpiece for the status quo, aka you guys, and not affecting the will of the rank and file. I don't know if that's accurate or not, and I'm sure Nakota can speak for himself. Nakota?
Yeah, the officers who, well, I'll just say two things. Number one, I was a bit confused when I read this document previously, in conjunction with learning about the facts that apparently the newly elected chief of staff was going to officers and telling them that I needed to be recalled from my position. So that was a little bit worrying.
Did that happen?
No, that's not at all what I said. Okay, there's a game of
Slacks?
telephone that's happening here.
Slacks,
I'm gonna
you
no,
want
I'm
to
gonna
step
tell
in?
you what my exact words were.
Okay, yeah,
I
what
will
did
tell
you
you what my
say?
exact words were. Some people are asking me about how Lance was doing, and were asking me about what the council meetings were like and what Nakota were like, and I said that Lance was fighting for the lawyers super hard, and that I was really, really proud to call him my president of the bar association, and I did not see the same fire from Nakota. That was all I said. I did not try to throw anybody on the bus and say that he was doing shite or anything like that. I was just asked on my opinion. I was a lawyer. I was not a chief of staff. I had not taken any oath or anything of the like. And I'm gonna go back to that Bill of Human Privileges for that freedom of speech. I'm entitled to give my opinion.
So
And
you
Lance has
didn't-
been doing
oh,
a
go ahead.
bang up fucking job. He's been doing amazing.
So you did not say to anybody that I should be
When they asked what
recalled.
they can do about it, I said that that's an action that they can try to take. I don't even know if it's feasible. That's not for me to say. I just gave legal advice as a lawyer. I was retained by
For
many
the
of the
record, there is no
PD.
recall. There is only
Yeah,
impeachment.
I didn't think so. Thanks. I said that would be an option, but I wasn't even sure if it was feasible, right? I'm like, that's something you could try. Don't know until you try it, right? But thanks for that, Crane.
Elected officials are impeachable. Appointed officials may be
Right.
removed by the state.
Yeah, fired or whatever. Yeah, got it. Yep, that's it. Yeah, but I mean, I had PD coming to me crying, actually crying, because they were so scared and concerned that they wanted to engage in a collective bargaining agreement.
For heaven's sake.
A collective bargaining agreement.
Interesting.
What do you mean by that?
Collective bargaining for what?
Like a union?
Yes.
Well, you know,
The fucking
Brahma,
comment
and-
from Etta
Oh,
just
Cletus,
makes
okay.
it so
No.
much better.
I just, you know,
Cle-
I don't like the word union. That's all, you know, just for my own personal reasons. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't want to speak up out of turn. Go ahead.
Sure.
You sure your last name ain't Dan? They don't much like the union either.
Well, it just is what it is.
So this is a report that you received, Nakota, from who?
I've heard from 3 different people that my position was called into question, but I'm confused about the collective bargaining issue. That this was what they came to you instead of to me to collective bargain for.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Are any of the people in this room?
Well, hold
Your
on, Mayor.
counselors
Hold on.
are-
Mayor.
are-
You never mentioned a single officer's name yet, to be fair, okay?
I can't break privilege.
specifics,
I
I
cannot
think-
break attorney-client privilege. I will not
You
name names.
you will get those names. I promise. Did a counselor relay this to you, Nakota?
No.
Continue.
What would PD members want to collectively bargain for?
I'm not going to break privilege. Crane is right here. I would like to have my bar license back, you know, one day when I'm off of LOA. So I'm not going to break privilege. I'm sorry.
Could you be acting in your official capacity as a lawyer if you're on a leave?
No, but I'm still a protected. Crane, can I just break attorney-client privilege if I'd like to be a lawyer again one day?
I have never considered the question of whether or not privilege survives someone turning in their bar license.
I've always considered it to still apply.
I have not considered that in this jurisdiction, no.
As someone who has been elected to speak to the lawyers, I would imagine most of them would say that that oath carries on until the death of said client themselves or a written waiver.
I agree. I would agree with Lance.
That is a persuasive argument.
Yep.
You said you had something else, Dakota?
Perhaps that is a city council matter to vote on.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay. No,
Okay.
those were the only 2 things.
Do we have any misunderstandings about this act as written?
Now that the captains have had a chance to read over it, do y'all have any questions for us?
I already
No.
kind of just, you know, aired out my frustration as far as what I think I would like to see. And for me, at the end of the day, as long as good people are in charge, as long as, you know, there's checks and balances, I'm all for change. I welcome it with open arms. And I welcome anybody from the city council to come down to the police department and have a conversation with us. I'll open the doors for y'all to see what we do. I'll share SOPs with y'all if you'd like to hear about it. We're not trying to hide anything. I'm not trying to run away from accountability. Hell, I'll be the tip of the spear when it comes to accountability. I'll be the first person to raise my hand and say, you know what, I messed up and I could do a better job.
And it is not the intention of the mayor's office to bulldoze what you guys have been working on, as I told you last night.
This is what I've
before
been
things
saying
got
from the
heated.
start.
Um,
well, like
all in favor of this act? Yay!
Hang on,
I need to read this again.
Here's going to be my last point. Before if anyone wants
Deputy
to
Mayor is
talk
Michael
about this
Simone.
further, we can. I think I want to phrase this. Sorry. Look, this. I think that a lot of concerns have been discussed. I think a lot of there's been a lot of back and forth here. I get that there is, we could always repeal this next week, next month, next administration, etc. However,
they're attacking.
I
they're
would
not
also
attacking.
like
they
to
are,
point
but
out
he's the one that brought
the,
forward the thing. If I had brought it
reverse
forward, it
is
would have been the same.
possible. This is a plan that could be gotten to in steps.
But
I'm
yes,
not
also
saying that this is
not
this is
just
what has to happen.
The mayor is
But
also
is
the deputy
there
mayor,
a world in which we could,
which is the fun part.
play
Michael
around
just
with
kind
the
of sitting
wording
there.
a little bit, shall we say?
I can offer a compromise.
If I could finish my thought.
Oh, yeah,
first,
sure.
Yeah. It was to strip down the wording, shall we say, where we do affirm that, let's say,
When it's on Edda's
the
mind.
mayor's office.
I don't think Edda streams.
Is basically the mouthpiece of the state, the liaison between the state and the PD. If the state is not available, the full extent of their powers are to be determined. Discussed next week. However, a power that they do have is to establish fact-finding missions to determine what the problems of the PD are, and then based on the results of that, that's when we could potentially discuss additional powers, responsibilities, etc.
I want to say something. We had a previous piece of legislation, which was the thing about time, right? The minutes. And one of the things that a lot of us did was abstain because we were uncertain about our capacity to make such a decision. It sounds like some of the contextualization from what Malton is saying and others have expressed is that they are concerned about the exact definition of the state and how the authority rests and how this would effectively pan out. So might I suggest that instead of voting this into legislation to be published tomorrow, why don't we instead vote to send this to the state? So what I mean by that is, instead of voting yay or nay on publishing this, why don't we vote yay or nay on sending this to Max's bosses, my bosses, all of our bosses, and getting their input? And if they approve, then you have your tacit approval, not only that they feel that there is enough restraint and checks and balances here to satisfy their interest, but also that they are actively involved and paying attention. Would that help to quell things?
Honestly, that would for me, but I would like to hear the mayor's opinion on this, since this is his piece of legislation.
Well, first of all, I'm not the only one who worked on this. Okay.
Correct.
Second of all, if we cannot showcase to the state that we're able to operate with the powers that we've been instilled with, be it the ability to repeal acts that are not effective, or be it the ability to impeach each other if we are found to be corrupt or overreaching, then going to them with this act in hand and attempting to get their approval for it kind of defeats the whole purpose of this council.
It's not a bad point. It's not a bad point.
But you're making progress. You're pushing legislation.
Well,
Things
and
are
I'll put it
moving
this
along,
way.
right?
Effectively, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's the same thing either way, because if we pass something, well, actually, that's interesting.
Wouldn't it look a lot worse if your boss does not agree with it and says, you know what, it's a terrible idea?
I mean,
I'll get fired.
Hold on. There is a mechanism. There is a mechanism that exists already, and that mechanism is spelled out in the way that the city council functions. To Max's point, we can both exercise our authority and leave it open
matter.
for the
4
state
to
to
8 is
repeal
enough
this
for
at
it to
any
be,
time if they so please.
push through.
That is not enacting a supermajority. So, for example,
supermajority.
if Madam Treasurer
Wait.
and one or two other folks have doubts, they can vote nay, and that will effectively leave the window open for this act to be examined at any time by the state and repealed.
To expand
That is another way to do it, to do the oversight.
To expand on this, this is a similar method to how some PD decisions